Okay. Good morning, the people on this side of the oceans. Good evening, the people back home, and good afternoon, wherever someone is afternooning from. Today we have the crossover of authentic dialogue with Tabitha's awesomeness. So I'll do from the authentic dialogue. We'll just do the welcoming note. Today it's not a question and answer session. It's a presentation from Tabitha, and when you hear her, you'll see why there's no question and answer session. So Saya, you're up, and after that, Tabitha, you just go. I will be off camera. Hi, Saya, answer.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Saya Jackson, and totally honored to have all of you here this day. Yeah, career. Big word, many meanings, many emotions. And especially when you add a second word to the word career, mistakes, or more or less desirable word like failure. And the question is, we've had all those, at times, horror stories of people who are high flying in their careers and something happened. Either there was a layoff, or they made a mistake, or they were implicated in a fraud or something, and then begins the downward spiral. Or people who become masters and gurus in a particular line of career, and something out of their that completely blindsided them. Say a new technology came up, or a new angle of office politics emerged. They were completely blindsided, and they made mistakes. So they did not probably skill up in time, or they misplayed their hand and were on the wrong side of office politics, and they're set back several days. Or in your academic career, you just chose the wrong supervisor, or the wrong supervisor was dealt to you, and you're stuck with that mistake, depending with whether it's your master's or your PhD or your postdoc, for anything between 1 to 4 years. And a few recover, many don't, from these sorts of setbacks, from these mistakes, whether they are genuinely their own mistakes, or genuinely other people's mistakes, but they're still implicated. But does it have to always be this way? You know, we are always wowed when we read or hear of those stories of people who are able to make amazing things out of mistakes. You know, rubber, the fake artificial rubber, was a product of a mistake in a lab. Some guy had mixed stuff and left it overnight, and his cat knocked the beaker down, and in the morning this guy realized, wait a minute, that stuff held together. So that was a mistake, but out of the mistake we're able to get the beginnings of rubber. It's always amazing when we're able to do and hear of such stories, but sadly that has become the exception, not the norm, of people bouncing back from their career mistakes. One meme that is doing rounds at this point in the year is a meme that features the characters from Tom and Jerry cartoon, and often it's written on top of there, me and my friends walking into 2024, having accomplished nothing in 2023. And much as this meme is designed for humor, it probably is masking a dark or repressed reality of many individuals, that as far as their careers are concerned, maybe because of mistakes they have done, 2023 has been a year of stagnation. And rather than many confronting this, what we are planning to do is just to kick the ball down the road and walk into 2024. And as we say it in Kenya, good vibes and inshallah, and see how it pans out. But does it need to be this way? Do our mistakes need to become a death sentence? Does it need to become a finality? Or can we genuinely bounce back? Is there a cheat code? Can we bounce back and become better rather than bitter, and become brighter rather than brandished away? And so that's what we're discussing today, because it's an important conversation to be able to have. And with us to do that is Tabitha. Over to you, Tabitha.
Oh my gosh, Saya, you know, yesterday I did a post indicating that we're going to have this live. And somebody came on there and wrote a whole paragraph about how you moderated and kicked off a particular panel that she was a part of. And she talked about how it was so influential and the way you started it was so powerful, right? And I have to say and commend you for the same today, because as you were speaking, I started reflecting on my own career mistakes, right? And I started reflecting, and some of the words you said, you asked us is, do our mistakes have to become a death sentence? Right? Do our mistakes have to get us to spiral down, right? And how can we convert those mistakes into opportunities? So thank you, Saya and Posa, for having me here. I am so excited to talk about this topic of the very common career mistakes we make. They don't all have to be dramatic. Some of them are simple, but they are the things that sometimes can keep us from reaching our ideal career. You know, when I talk to a lot of people, it's so interesting, and I would love for some people to chat and confirm this or not. I've met so many people who think one of two things. The first thing they think is that there is absolutely no way you can find fulfillment in corporate, right? That fulfillment is actually the people that have a monopoly on fulfillment are the self-employed, and that you cannot express your purpose or your mission on this earth through your career. If you actually believe this, and that you believe that somehow going for a career is a place of misery. Corporate is a place of negativity. Corporate is a place where your wings are clipped and you truly can't find joy in corporate. If you've ever believed that or ever heard that, please type, I've heard it before, or I've believed that before. I'm really curious to see how many people have ever believed that or heard that. Let me see what the chat is saying. This is where I kind of pull in either Post or Saya. Is anybody saying anything about that in here? Any thoughts? Anybody ever believed that corporate is a place of misery? There can't truly be joy. It's a place that you just go work and then you head home, because joy and fulfillment can only be found outside the workplace. Anybody? Have you heard that or have you believed that? Let me see. Only one person has heard it before. Okay. That's interesting, because a lot of people that I meet actually believe that, right? Then the second thing that I see often, and I see this very much in the Kenyan community, is the belief that in order for you to find financial fulfillment, you can only find it through a hustle, a side hustle, a second job, that if you want to make great money, you must go into the world of self-employment. Has anybody ever heard or believed that around self-employment? Anybody? I don't know if anybody is saying anything. Does anybody believe that? Nobody? I'm so sure. Okay, yes, I see Joanne says it's an awful myth. Yes, Washeka says self-employment. Yes, Jason says yes. Koi says yes. Thank you both. Thank you, everybody, for commenting on that. Because, right, one of the interesting things that we have to realize is two things. For most of us, we make majority of our money that actually finances our lives and even finances our businesses and investments from corporate. But secondly, we spend 8 to 10 hours a day in corporate if you're working, whether you're considering corporate, government, rather I should say in employment. So what a miserable life we would have if we can't find fulfillment in that. What a miserable life we would have if for 5 days a week, for 8 to 10 hours, you're going into the workplace dreading it. You're leaving that experience drained, right? You're not looking forward to that. What a miserable experience that would be. And that's part of the reason I'm excited to have this conversation, because my vision, my goal for all of you is that you can understand how to carve that out, that joy, fulfillment, and success in your career, right? So that that same joy, fulfillment, and success continues to bleed into the rest of your life, rather than the opposite: frustration, anger, annoyance, disappointment, disillusionment, all bleeding into your into your personal life. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to be talking about career mistakes. So I want to go ahead and jump in. Actually, Jackie has an interesting comment. She said she believed that and went into self-employment, and now she's back into corporate. I've heard that a lot, right? Because there's this discussion of the belief that self-employment is better than being employed, right? Well, that's always a perspective. So what I would love for us to do today is we're going to start with a quick self-assessment. And I want you to think about your dreams. I'm going to share that with you in a second. And then when we do that, we then will talk about 6 common pieces of advice. And if anybody has been in any of my lives, you've seen this part before. 6 common pieces of advice that are given to people in corporate or people who are employed, government, NGOs, that are given that often lead to your career stalling. And then we're going to close with 12 common career mistakes that you might be making that could be actually stalling your career and making it difficult for you to recover. And I'm also going to share with all of you a big career-ending mistake that I made and how I actually pivoted out of that career mistake to continue to move my career in the right direction. So if you guys are ready, Let's start with the first activity. So here I'd love for us to do a quick activity. I think you can see my slide here. And the activity I would love for us to do is this. I would love for all of you to just take a second and actually write down 5 things that you desire in your career now or in the future. Please write that in the notebook. And if you feel good about it, share it in the chat. Excuse me. The wrong thing is being shared. There we go. So go ahead and share 5 things that you write down, 5 things that you desire in your career now or in the future. Please go ahead and write those down. And when you're done writing them down, either write them in there or in the chat or say, I'm done. I would love to see 10 people say, I'm done, so I know we are ready. And those 5 things can be anything from I desire a promotion, or I desire to pivot into a role that lights my soul on fire, or I desire more money. What is it that you desire? It could be I desire mentorship. What is it? What are 5 things that you desire in your career? Please go. I desire to find purpose. What do you desire? Write 5 things you desire in your career, please. And I'm going to be looking for 10 people to either note it or say, I'm done. I've written it down. Please do that in the chat. Thank you, Posta. Let's get 9 more people to type that they're done. And Posta, if we have any people in the live, type that and we get to 10, let me know. Thank you, Nyambura. Thank you, Purity. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Koi. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jackie. Good. Good. I think we've gotten to 10. Good. So what I would love to do with you now is I want to have a conversation and I want to share with you what I have found are the 5 most common desires. And I want you to see where your desire fits in this bucket, because I want you to see that you're not alone. And and what we're going to talk about is also going to help you speed your way towards that desire. So let me go ahead and share the 5, and I'm going to walk through these 5 with you so you can see where you actually show up. Thank you for doing the work. Let's start with this. One of the 5 things I hear from all people, and I'm going to break this a little deeper. The first one is professional growth and development. And within that, I hear 3 common things. So lean in and see if you fall into this bucket. The first thing I hear from people is they say, I want to get opportunities where I can learn new skills or improve my existing ones. You want to grow your skills. The second thing under professional growth and development that I hear is I want to progress my career, right? And I want to get new, more complex, bigger responsibilities. So if I get promoted, I don't just want a title, I want more complex, bigger responsibilities that grow me. The third thing that I hear is I want intellectual challenge and the professional growth and development, meaning I want to engage in work that is stimulating intellectually and involves problem solving and such. I don't just want to go and check the boxes, but I want intellectually stimulating work. If your desires fell into the professional growth and development box, please type PGD. Because this self-awareness is going to be so powerful as you think about how to continue to drive your career forward and avoid the common mistakes that people reach. So if they fell into that, right, PDG, I want to see how many fell into that. Let's look at the second bucket of compensation, because this one is interesting. So one of the second things I hear from people so often is that they say, I want greater compensation. So typically, what goes into that? What I typically see going into that again is also three things. The first one is salary. This is one of the things that people ask me all the time, Tabitha, how can I negotiate for higher pay? So if you're somebody that desired higher salary, your annual compensation, boom, it goes in there because you want financial stability or to lead the life that you desire. The second one under compensation is typically benefits. Whether that's better retirement, whether that's better health insurance, whether that's better paid time off, maybe you're not getting enough time off, whether that's work-life balance, the ability to work from home, some of that can actually fall under work-life balance or compensation as a perk. So if your desires for the future in your career fell under compensation, please type compensation. And the reason I want you again to do this is that the more awareness, the more clarity you have about what you desire, the likelihood, the higher the likelihood that you will achieve it. And the reason I say that is because I want to tell you a story of steak. Because my darlings, I love steak. I mean, me napenda nyama, napendanga steak, particularly ribeye. And I like ribeye because, okay, on a ribeye, it's very juicy, it's very marbled, it's tender. It's probably one of the most delicious pieces of beef, of a cow, right? So think about the last time you went into a restaurant. Imagine if I went into a restaurant and I said, I want steak. Well, and I said that to the waiter. The reality is that the waiter could go back and bring me what he or she thought was good steak. They could bring me a sirloin. A sirloin on average is kind of tough. It's not very juicy and fatty, and I would be so disillusioned. Or they could go and bring it the Kenyan style where it's overcooked, according to me, where nyama imechomwa mpaka it's almost black, right? And then I wouldn't enjoy that steak. But you see, the waiter delivered exactly what I asked for. I asked for a steak. So the waiter brought me a sirloin that was well done. So tough, according to me, and overcooked, according to me. So yeah, at least I got a steak, but I did not get the steak that I wanted. So then what was missing there? What was missing in that was that I did not ask for exactly what I wanted because I did not have clarity of my desire. So clarity of my desire means I would have said, can I please get a ribeye cooked medium? So you see, when it comes to bringing your dreams around your career into fruition, one of the most important things you can have is clarity. Really knowing exactly what it is that you want. And this is why I'm starting here with you really seeing, what do I really want shamelessly? Because what I want is I want you to order your steak exactly how you desire that steak. That's why we're doing that activity. If you've enjoyed that little story, right, about steak, type steak, right? Because I want you to always remember the importance of clarity in desire. The importance of clarity in your ask, whether that ask is with an executive sponsor, whether that ask is in your negotiation, whether that ask is to God or to the universe. Clarity in the ask, right, is an important ingredient of a variety. And that's why we're doing this activity. So let's keep going. I hope you've enjoyed that little analogy and that you'll always remember the analogy of the steak order. So then let's go into the third thing that I hear people want. The third that I hear all the time is work-life balance. And what people typically mean by that is that they want flexible hours, right? Or they want remote work options, right? Or they want more time for their personal life. So if your desires fell into that box, please type WLB. The fourth type of desire that I hear all the time has to do with meaningful work and fulfillment. And this is so big, my darlings. And this one is so big because I always say this. I am somebody who does not believe in the philosophy that work needs to be draining, that work needs to be this thing that you find a lot of misery in. Instead, I'm the kind of person who believes that on Monday morning, you have to be so energized and excited to go to work. Like you want to be in a space where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for Monday. And you're not the kind of person who's waiting for Friday, and dreading Monday. Instead, work just needs to bleed in because work is so fulfilling. So typically some of the things I hear in this bucket under meaningful work is I hear people talking about the fact that they want to make an impact. They want to have a sense of making a difference, whether it's into the organization through their work or some social issue. Under this, I also hear people say that they want an alignment with their personal values. They want to work in a place that is aligned with their core values. So for example, if one of your core values is integrity, then you don't want to work for an organization where you can see that there is lack of integrity. If one of your core values is fairness, then you don't want to work in an organization where you can see that people are promoted unfairly, that, raises are given unfairly, opportunities are shared unfairly. That's the second thing I hear. And then the last piece that I hear around meaningful work is the whole idea of recognition. Because the reality, my darlings, is that when we go out there and we do good work and we make an impact, we want to know that that impact is valued and appreciated. You want to feel valued and appreciated for your contributions, right? So if your answers in the self-reflection fell under meaningful work, meaningful and fulfilling work, please type MFW, MFW. And then the last one that I hear all the time in terms of what people want in their career now and in the future is that they want a great environment and work culture. And that means that some of you desire collegiality, meaning a friendly and cooperative work environment, that you don't want to have to fight so hard to get what you want. You want work to be friendly, not toxic, right? You want collaboration, right? You want it to be cooperative. So if you desired that, the second thing I hear under a great work environment and culture is diversity and inclusion, right? Which is people want a workplace that respects and values the individual differences, right? In Kenya, sometimes those differences have to do with your ability, your physical ability. Sometimes those differences have to do with the ethnic group that you come from. If you're in the diaspora, a lot of times that has to do with your race and your nationality, right? But either way, you want a workplace where you feel valued and accepted and respected for who you are. And then the final one, under great work environment and culture, this one is big, is people tell me that they want a supportive management team, meaning they want good leadership and support from their supervisors and upper management. So if your desires fell into this bucket, type GWE. So now I want to see what all of you have typed. And I hope that you've typed in because I want to see if you have clarity around your desires. And in these 5 buckets, we've covered 15 things, 3 in each bucket. In these 5 buckets, where do you fall? All right, did you guys write? Oh, yes, I saw some of you wrote. Great, I love it. Thank you, thank you. And you guys wrote the steak in there. Thank you for typing that. I love that because I want us to go next into what keeps us from getting there. And before we go into that, I want to tell a little bit of my personal story. So at this point, I want to start by asking, you guys who have ever been to my sessions know I ask this, how are you feeling? Now that we've shared this and you have bucketed your desires, your needs, you hopefully you have more clarity and it's tangible. You can specifically say, this is what I want, right? How are you feeling now? Does that sense of clarity do something for you? I would love for you to type in, how are you feeling? Right now that you've done that, you've looked at that and now you're a little clear. That's why I went into detail into all of those. All right, so let's see. Dr. Mushero says, thumbs up. Thank you, Dr. Mushero. Anybody else? Tell me how you're feeling. Not what you're thinking, but how you're feeling. We're 70 of us, surely, at least in the Zoom, surely we can get a few people saying, I'm feeling, it could be anything. It could be a positive emotion, right? Sharon says she's feeling lighter, good. Purity is feeling great, right? Kate is feeling thoughtful, good, right? Koi is has so much clarity and comfort to know that there are others, yes, that you're in good company. Others are experiencing the same, good. Let's get 5 more people. I don't know if there's anybody in the live commenting, so we would want to honor that, right? Christine, I think she's feeling positive, good. Nyambura is feeling hopeful, good. Because there's something that happens to you when you have clarity about your desire, particularly in your career. When you don't have clarity, you can feel stuck. When you start getting very clear about what you want, then you can actually start to feel empowered, because now at least you know what to do. You may not know how, but at least you know what to do. Thank you, Jackie. She says not alone. And Kirigo says not isolated. Good. So I want to check in first before we continue with my hosts, to see if they want to jump in before we go into some of those common mistakes that keep us from reaching our ambitions. I want to check in with the host and see if you have any comments or if there is anything you would want to add or share.
So far from the live, no comments. I think it's the nature of our authentic side. It's different. We usually don't have that much. We don't do it your style. Sad, do you have comments from your page?
None. I'm keeping an eye on them. None so far, but being blessed and learning as we go.
Good, good. So Saya and Posta, how are you feeling so far?
Good. I'm actually feeling good.
Good.
I'm listening in with my wife. She's on the side, and yeah, you can be sure we are taking notes and feeling excited. I'm already asking questions among ourselves, so I'm sure you'll be seeing them pop in as time goes.
Good, good. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Good, good. And I'm seeing a lot of names, familiar names in here, right? So I'm so glad you're all here. Let's keep going. All right, darlings, let's keep going. So we've talked about what it is that you want in your career. And so I want to share some of the realities. So you've got this desire, and I want to share some of the career challenges I hear from so many of you. I've heard from so many people who say this to me, and if this is you, I want you to type the challenge number. There are many more, but I just picked a few specific ones. The first challenge I hear from people is they say, wow, to me, work has been feeling like an upward battle. A battle that's plagued with resistance and organizational politics. I feel that I've had to fight every step of the way, that for every achievement, it's not been as smooth sailing as I would have wanted. I feel like I have to claw my way up because my journey has been plagued with resistance and workplace politics. If that's you, please go ahead and type challenge number 1. Let's go ahead and look at the other challenges. The second challenge that I hear often is people say that they feel tired of working hard and not receiving reciprocal pay, positions, and recognition. Like you feel like what you're getting back doesn't align with what you're giving. And so you can feel tired. You can feel disillusioned because you're like, I work so hard and I'm not getting the recognition in pay, positions, and promotions. The third thing I hear a lot from people is that they feel burnt out or exhausted from fighting tooth and nail for every opportunity, or from burning the candle from both ends with the goal of rising, that at some point it starts feeling like it's not worth it. And then finally, I hear from people that after all this, They have felt a loss of career fire and felt a loss of career fulfillment. Which of these challenges has resonated with you either now or in the future? Yeah, I'm seeing good comments. Thank you. Somebody said, ooh, number 3. Oh, yes. Challenge 1, 1 and 2, 2, 3, 3, 3 and 4, 4, 4. Good, right? Why do I say good? Not because I want you to be there, but because if you see yourself in some of these challenges, or you see this could be a potential challenge in the future, you're going to lean in. And I want you to lean in because the solutions that I'm going to give you, I'm going to go in deeper, and I feel like you'll understand or you'll get something from some of this. So in order to introduce myself to some of you that may not know me, right? My name is Tabithas, and I am a career acceleration coach. And I wanted to tell you a little bit of my story, to tell you that all those challenges I've talked about, all the pain that you felt trying to grow your career, I've been there. You see, I came to the US when I was very young. I was 18, straight out of high school. I literally had just turned 18. And I went to the 4-year college as usual. Mine took me 5 years, long story, right? And then I jumped into corporate, right? And I wanted to put this picture because in this picture, you can probably see me, the only Black girl in that room that was primarily men and primarily white men. And you can see that this is a training that happened where we as corporate people from around the world, this was a global corporation that had been promoted to being leaders of leaders, meaning we were managing managers and their teams, right? We were not direct managers. So these were senior directors and vice presidents and higher. At this point, I was a senior director. At this stage in 2012, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I think I was, how many years ago is 2012? 10, 12, I was probably 31, something like that. And so I'm going to tell you the journey that led there. And I want to see if you can see your pain, right? So I joined corporate and I was doing very well, right? At first, I was at the very bottom. I'm sorry? Oh, sorry. I thought I heard somebody. Okay. So I joined corporate. I was in this particular organization. I joined and I was working very hard, right? And at the entry level stage, my hard work was actually working for me. But along the way, I started getting certain feedback. I'd get feedback that, Tabitha, you're talking to people as if they're your servants. And I think that was a part of our Kenyan culture where we speak very directly. Our English was considered much more British, but that's the feedback I got very early in my career. But I adjusted some of that, and very soon I got promoted into a manager. I was actually tapped on the shoulder to become a manager, where I was relocated to Houston, Texas. And then very soon I was tapped on the shoulder for that opportunity that you saw, where I think I was 31. Was I 31? How many years ago? I don't know how many years ago that was. Maybe I was 30, 31, where I was a senior director, right? And when I was tapped for that position, right, I was a senior director. And you can see from that picture, I was a leader of leaders. And you can see from that picture, from a global organization, we had people who had flown in from South Africa. We had two people that had flown in from India, people that had flown in from Europe. And then there was people who were Americans. And I was the only Black person in that room. And I was super young, but I was super energized because my career trajectory was doing really well. I was the youngest doing what I was doing. So when I started my job, things started really well. And if you remember, Saya at the beginning talked about big career mistakes, right? And I'm going to tell you that here's what happened with me. Soon, within a little bit over a year of my job, I ended up reorganizing my team and hiring somebody that was a director reporting into me. And my instincts, my gut, my intuition had told me not to hire him, but my leaders had insisted that I needed to hire him. And very soon, he was not a good performer, as my instincts had told me. And when I tried to put him on a performance improvement plan, guess what's the first thing he did? He actually filed a claim with HR against me. So then what ended up happening is that HR of this global organization started investigating me. And by the time they were done, right? They talk to my entire team, my direct reports and their direct reports. And what I always say is that I was over investigated and over penalized. Sometimes that happens to people based on their national origin, their race, at home, even potentially based on your ethnic background. And so when HR was done, guess what they had done? They decided that they were going to strip me of my leadership. And then immediately they told me, Tabitha, we don't know what we're going to do with you, but you are no longer a leader in this organization. And I can tell you that it was the most indignifying thing that had ever happened to me, right? To be there, you think you're thriving. You are at that point the only Black person representing people like you. And then and I asked them why, because of one thing, which they said was my communication. And nobody told me anything about my communication or exactly what I had done. I was stripped of my leadership. And it was humbling, it was painful, it was embarrassing, it was shameful. I felt all those emotions. And what would most people do in that situation? And by the way, they were over penalizing me, because if somebody has a communication challenge, the answer is not to strip them of leadership. The answer is to if it's the first time, take them for training, right? Coach them. But instead, I was over penalized. I was stripped of my leadership. So this was a career defining moment. And I'm not saying that I did not have bad communication. I'm not saying that, right? I'm saying that I probably made a mistake. Nobody ever gave me the details. But what would most people do? What would you do if you were stripped of your leadership and you felt that it was unfair? Most people would either quit, they would get angry, or they would start looking for a new job. But instead, what I did in that moment is I leveraged one of the most powerful things that you can do at work. I leveraged two things. I leveraged my executive sponsor, which we're going to talk about in a second, and I leveraged negotiation. So instead, after I've been stripped of my leadership, I managed to negotiate to get promoted into a vice president role, right? Where I had a bigger team and a bigger budget. So I went from a senior director stripped of leadership to a vice president managing a $3 billion book of business from a customer experience perspective, $3 billion US back then, to being a vice president with a bigger team and a bigger budget. The same person who had just been stripped of her leadership. So the question for you is, when you meet, right, these career mistakes, when you make career missteps and you feel the consequences in front of you, like Saya talked about in the beginning, what do? Do you lean on your defensiveness? Do you lean on your anger? Do you lean on your frustration and make emotional reactions? Or do you feel those emotions, allow them to be, and then step back and re-strategize? So the rest of what we're going to be talking about today are some of the common mistakes that we make that actually cause us to pause or to stall our career. And so I wanted to give you some context as to where I learned all of this. And since then, I have trained numerous people to actually do the same in their career. So let's start with the 6 commonly prescribed career success recipes that can let you down. If you've been in my classes before, I've talked about these 6, but then after that, we're going to talk about some new ones, right, that I haven't talked about before. So let's go in and jump on the 6. And if you see yourself resonating with any of the 6, I would love for you to type in which that one is. The first one is the hard work strategy. This is the belief, the prescription that if you go to work, you just need to put your head down and do hard work, really grind, come in earlier than anybody else, leave later than anybody else. And if you do this, one day somebody will recognize your hard work and they will put a tiara on your head and reward you for your amazing hard work. But then what I find a lot of people find is that they continue to go into work, they hustle, they grind, only to find that they are still being overlooked for positions and promotions that they're qualified for despite their hard work. If that's you, type AHW. If you've ever gone to work, put your head down and said, this is the answer, and you've worked so hard, but you've still been overlooked for opportunities that you deserve. That's the hard work strategy. And now, don't get me wrong, hard work is important, but hard work on its own will not get you to your desires. The second one that I hear all the time, and this is so big with us Kenyans, is the academic credential strategy. And this approach, when I talk about this, I know a lot of people feel a lot of resistance to this. And what is this academic credential strategy? It is where you believe that in order for you to reach your ultimate vision of success, what you have to do is to continuously get more and more education. So you go for more certification, you go for more degrees. Now, don't get me wrong, degrees and certifications are essential. But what we need to understand is that degrees and certifications do one very important thing. They open doors. But once the door is open, then what? So you've gotten your degree or certification, it's opened the door, you've landed that job, right? But you're ready to continue growing it, but yet you're still not growing, you still feel stuck. And then what do most people do? They go say, which other degree or certification can I take? Instead of realizing that there is another option. But so if you're the person who's always thought that the only way to grow your career or the primary way is to keep loading up on degrees and certificates, and yet those degrees and certificates have not yet reaped the rewards that you desire beyond opening doors, type ACA. And don't get me wrong, academic credentials are essential. You cannot qualify for certain positions without academic credentials. Or certain roles, you have to have the educational backing. But then what after that? I meet too many people who are overcertified or highly certified, highly educated, but they still cannot reach their career dreams. Let's go to the third one. The third one that I see a lot is the HR career pathing approach. This is where if you work for a large organization, they often have additional training and mentoring and things that you can actually do, that they say that if you do these things, it will help you grow your career. This is drive your career strategies. And you go in and you take the classes, you take the courses, you do what you need to do in terms of what has been prescribed by HR is necessary for you to grow. So you do all that and you get all those, you do the entire pathing approach. And the most that you ever get, perhaps, is a promotion one level higher, if that. But then you're left stuck. And you're wondering, how come I did everything HR said I do, but my career is still not reaching its goals? Why? Because HR career programs, remember, I come from a background of HR earlier on. HR career programs are intended to help you thrive in your existing role. They're not intended to prepare you for your ideal role. They're to help you thrive in your existing role. So are they important? Yes. But on their own, they're not going to get you towards your dreams. So if you've ever followed the HR career pathing strategy and you've still felt stuck, type HRCP. Are you guys typing? I hope you're typing. Let's go to number 4, 2 more. The find a mentor approach. This is a really interesting one because I hear so often where people say, if you want to grow in corporate, if you want to grow in government, if you want to grow your career, find a mentor. And mentors are amazing. They're important, right? But the problem is mentorship programs often fail, right? Why? Because mentorship typically requires one person pouring into another. It's often not mutually beneficial. So a mentor is intended to help you thrive in your existing roles. And mentors are essential at the right place. But I've met so many people with mentors, right? And yet, despite having mentors, they find that their careers are still stuck. And yet, particularly for women, women tend to be over-mentored and under-sponsored. We're going to talk about sponsorship, right? But if you're the kind of person who's thought that the answer is find a mentor, find a mentor, find a mentor. And perhaps you've been lucky enough to find a mentor, and I put lucky in quotes, but yet your career still feels stuck. Type MA. And then we'll talk about the next one. So typically what happens is that people do all these things. They work hard, they get their degrees, they do the HR programs, they find a mentor. But all those things are still not yielding the career growth and fulfillment that they desire. But because they don't know another way forward, they go back and they double down on these strategies. They say, perhaps I need to work harder. Perhaps I need to find a new mentor. Perhaps I need to get a new certification or degree. Perhaps I need to take another HR course. And you double down. And you double down, and it's still not reaping the rewards that you desire in your career. So then what's the last thing I see people do all the time? the last thing I see people do is what I call the greener pastures approach. At this point, you're so done, you're so disillusioned that you now believe that the problem is the company, your boss, the industry, all those things are the problem, they're external. So then you say, I'm gonna quit. So you quit and you go find another job. And you're happy for the first 6 months, maybe 1 year if you're lucky. And then you're back to square one. You're back to feeling unfulfilled. You're back to feeling like you're not growing. You're back to being overlooked for promotions. You're back to being not tapped for those opportunities you desire. You're back to square one. So then you keep repeating the same career cycle in different companies. You keep changing companies and the same thing keeps happening and you keep going, what am I doing wrong? If you've ever believed any of these strategies and you found yourself still stuck, I want to see if this is resonating with all of you. Please go ahead and type. Please type something. Let me see if this resonates. If any of these strategies connects with you, right? If this is going in the right track or if we should just end here because you guys are like, there's nothing new here, right? I want to see if this is resonating. And I would love to invite Saya, right? For your thoughts so far, how are you reacting to these 6? Because now we're going to go into the additional, more nuanced mistakes or missteps. But these are the 6 most commonly advised approaches around how to navigate your career that keep letting people down. And I've talked to hundreds of women and professionals. I have hundreds of professionals in my programs, and I see that majority of them have grown to a certain level and they do well. And then they get stuck. And they're like, what am I doing wrong? So Saya or anybody else, if anybody has some comments, I would welcome those.
So far, awesome. I used to work with a bunch of software developers, and the analogy that your speech and so far teaching has evoked were things in code when individuals would experience a bug, and it's been running through them. The exact strategies you've mentioned, the 6 were the exact. So people would say, okay, let me rewrite the code. Others would say, if I just brute force my way through, I can be able to decode, and the cycle would go, on and on and on, and there'd be frustration, and people would get mentors, would go to Stack Overflow to get solutions and stuff. And it's amazing how what you're saying resonates, not just at the individual level, but also like at the experiential work experience level. At one point, I needed to begin looking around if there are cameras in my house, because in this one can only come better in Swahili. Umetumulika. I'm sure I'm not the only one. And yeah, the engagement that is happening online on the FB page is, if you've ever been to I'm Luya, if you've ever been to a Luya church, we preach with you. As you preach, we are affirming you and we are going on with you. So it's hitting home. And it's hitting home with the guys on the FB page. Guys are commenting with you. So, and so far, thanks for cutting through the fluff and just being able to pinpoint on it. The one question that is still lingering around is on the desire list that we began with. Does somebody need to be in one bucket, or can they be in multiple buckets? And then on the strategies list, the 6 you said, get more certificates, get more mentorship, again, are people normally stuck on one thing, or are they trying a couple of things? I'm sure so far those are thoughts that are coming up, and you can answer, address, or if I have gone ahead of the syllabus, you can always tell us, hey, be easy, we will cover that. But so far, so good.
Awesome.
Yeah, and let me use this time, Tabitha, to just tell guys, hey guys, it tells you I'm keeping an eye on the discussion on the FB page, Authentic Dialogues, and I'm keeping an eye on the discussion on the thread. So if you have stuff as Tabi is moving, please feel free to drop it. Posa and I will be able to put an eye on it and make sure it's surfaced when needed. But back to you, Tab.
Awesome. Thank you, Saya. And the answer to your question is yes, you can be in multiple buckets. In fact, most people are, right, in each of the 5 buckets of desires. And that's why I gave 3 within each. So you're looking at 15 total very common desires, right? But if you have more than one, the goal is to prioritize and see which one is the root. Because, for example, if you desire a position that is utilizing your skills, right, that probably is the primary thing that you will address, and it might impact fulfillment, it might impact compensation, it might impact. So have your full list and see which one rises to the top or as the root cause that would address many of your desires if you achieve that one desire. And then it's the same thing with the 6 strategies. Most people do more than 6, multiple of those at once. You might be working hard at the same time you're getting your degree, right? At the same time you're doing or a certificate. So you could be doing multiple at the same time, right? And then, like we said, number 5, when one is not working, you double down on another, but you're always cycling typically on these 6 and going, why am I doing everything everybody says I should do and I still feel stuck? So thank you for that, Saya.
Awesome. Thanks for the responses.
Thank you. And I see Catherine says in the chat, she says, well, I'm usually at work by 6:45 a.m. or p.m., leaving quite late too, not getting promoted, right? And I see a few others of you have really commented. And the point is that I wanted to make is that these 6 things are important. We need to get our academic credentials. We need to get our pay. We need to work hard, right? We need to do all these things, right? But on their own are not enough. And what I'm going to be sharing with you later is what the magic is, right? What is the missing ingredient? We're going to talk about that in a second. All right, darlings. Next, I want us to talk about some of the nuanced 12 mistakes. And my friends, I have this habit of calling you darlings, so I hope you're okay with that, right? It's not intended as a negative. It's just the way I speak, my way of connecting with you, right? So, but if you're ready for us to continue and talk about some of the 12 nuanced missteps we make, right? Please type, I'm ready, because I want us to go in and I want you to lean in and see if some of these nuanced mistakes are some of the ones, or missteps are some of the ones you've been having. And tell me how you're feeling. You're feeling good. You know, in here, we already have 88 people. I don't know how many people are in the live, so thank you for being here. But if you're enjoying this, let's at least have half of you. 40 of you say, I'm ready. Are you ready? Good. Oh, Sharon said she's feeling so seen. Good. Let's have 20 more of you type. So something, how you're feeling, or if you're ready, so we can hit that half number and we can go on. People on the Facebook Live, we're looking. Go ahead and type. Let us know if you're ready. I know on Facebook they might be a tad bit delayed. Good. Good. Thank you to all of you for typing. So let's go ahead and look at some of these nuanced, right, missteps that we make that might be keeping you from reaching your career dreams. These missteps can actually make your career dreams elusive. Let's go ahead and talk about them. There are 12. Okay. The first one that I want to talk about is lack of career clarity. And this one is particularly big because I always say this, right? In my program this week, we're working on people and identifying their career unique value proposition. Do you know who you are? And do you know where who you are would fit best? Do you know where who you are would make the biggest impact? Do you really know the kind of work that would be fulfilling for you? Or are you simply going for titles because everybody said that's a title that, that you need to do to make money? I belong to this group of amazing African women. And half the time, the younger ones always come in and ask, should I take this course? And usually my advice is that's not a question you should be asking, because usually the question is, should I take this course? Will there be jobs and will I make money? And typically I say, when you have clarity about who you are, you'll take the kind of degree or course that is aligned with the kind of impact that you want to make. And guess what? Your career will be fluid. your career will grow faster than you imagined. In my career, I only have a bachelor's degree. Oh, let me correct that. I have a bachelor's degree. I'm not putting only in front of that. I have a bachelor's degree, and yet the people who worked for me and continue to work for me have up to PhDs. They're doctors. Why? Because I was aligned with the kind of work that is aligned with my unique gifts, talents, and strengths. And I had no choice but to thrive. So are you clear about your unique value proposition? Do you know what differentiates you from a pool of equally qualified candidates? Do you know the kind of impact your differentiators make on your stakeholders? Are you really clear? When I ask people what their strengths are, majority of the time I get the same strengths answered. People say, when I ask them, and I want you guys to type for me your top 3 strengths. People say, well, I'm a great problem solver. I'm a great communicator. I'm a team collaborator. I am creative. I'm innovative. I am, what are some other common ones? I'm very organized. I'm really analytical. What are the common ones? And I always say it is the same list of 20 that keeps repeating over and over and over again. And I say that this world, this universe, right? This God, regardless of the language you use, that created so much diversity, whether you're looking at trees, plants, animals, diversity, even in people, like literally created billions of people and only created 20 strengths. And the reason we don't know that is because usually we do not know our career selves, right? So I always hear the same ones. I'm a good communicator. I'm good at speaking in public. I hear the same 20 recycled, and it is a factor and a demonstration that many people do not really know their unique strengths. And a lot of times when I ask people for what their strengths are, they tell me what their educational background is. Your educational background has nothing to do with your strengths. That's your know-how. That's your know-how. That's what you know that you can bring into the workplace. But when you look at yourself, what are your innate gifts that allow you to express your career, that allow you to express your know-how in a way that is irresistible, create an impact, and consequently result in you having this mind-blowing career outcome? And I'm very curious to see, do you know yourselves, or is clarity an opportunity? Right? Let's keep going. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Let me know if you're enjoying it. We'll go faster. The second one that I hear all the time is self-doubt or imposter syndrome. That's one of the things that could keep you a misstep. Why do I say that? You know, in class, in my program, I teach about imposter syndrome and the 5 types of imposter syndrome or self-doubt, right? But the reality is this: if you are continuously, if you're unaware that you're experiencing imposter syndrome, and remember, imposter syndrome is not a mental illness. It is simply an experience that you go through, right? A lot of times you might need therapy to work through it, but it is not an illness. It's an experience. And here's the interesting things. Research by the International Journal of Science or something like that found that 70% of professionals have experienced imposter syndrome, and in fact, imposter syndrome is more likely to be felt by the high achieving people. Why? Because if you're a high achiever, there's moments or rooms that you're going to be in where you'll start to question whether you deserve to be in that room. Right. And so, for example, an example of where imposter syndrome can keep you from reaching your dreams is the imposter syndrome type called perfectionism. Right. And this could be an example of where a person is not willing to grow their career because they're waiting to be perfect. Right. Or they're not raising their hands for opportunities because they only check 70% of the opportunities and they don't check the other 30. So they don't raise their hand because they're like, I'm not perfect. I didn't check everything up. Or maybe there are certain opportunities in front of them. Right. Or they have the ability to deliver something, but they hold it back because they say it's not perfect yet. So the opportunities keep passing them by because of the self-doubt, the belief that because their work product is not perfect, if they put it out there, people might discover that they're not as good, right, as they thought that they were. So perfectionism is one of the 5 types of imposter syndrome that we talk about. So that's one of the things that could keep you The missteps, unaddressed imposter syndrome could be one of the things that's keeping you from reaching your career ambitions. If that resonates, please type resonate. Let's go into the next one. Then the next thing that could keep you from getting there has to do with company culture. And I think that this one is just not talked about enough. So what do I mean by that? I've met so many people who say, I just want a job. And when they are going to look for a job, they don't try and identify as to whether they are a good fit for that job. They just try, or whether that job is a good fit for them. They're just desperate to be accepted. So then you leave the pot of boiling water and you jump into the frying pan, because soon enough you realize I'm not well aligned with my leader's culture. The corporate culture, the kind of work, the pace, the way they do work is not aligned with me. So too often we overlook corporate culture. And it's similar to how many of us, especially women, date. If you think about it, from a very young age, when we're out there dating, we're asking ourselves, does this guy like me? So you're out there, right, doing things which are amazing, but with the intention of being liked by the guy. Can I get him to like me long enough to propose to me to be his wife or his girlfriend? Does he like me? When instead the question we should be asked, so we sometimes, because we've never done that, we enter into relationships, and later on after we're in the relationship, we're like, oh my gosh, who's this guy? What did I do? And the guy vice versa. This is not picking on guys, right? And it's the same thing we do with work. We jump in, we take a job because we're excited. We got a small raise. It's a new job. Oh, we are living this toxic environment. And then we jump from the boiling water into the frying pan. And 6 months later, you're like, oh my God, what did I do? I'm miserable in this job. But instead, the question we should be asking is very similar to dating. Before you take on a new job, before, you should also be interviewing that job to understand if the company culture is right for you. I'll give you an example. So really, much like dating, it shouldn't be, does this guy like me? The question is, do I like him? Because if I don't like him, I'm in no business being in a relationship with him, right? Even if he likes me. So it's the same thing you should be doing with your job. Do I like this boss? Would I work well with him? Do I like this company culture, their values? I'll give you an example. I cannot stand work cultures that are structured. I cannot stand work cultures where things are already pre-thought and it's well designed and there's good flow, there's good processes, everything works brilliantly. I can't stand it. Many people do, but I cannot. Why? Because by nature, one of my superpowers is I'm a disruptor. I'm an innovative disruptor. So I love to walk into environments where they have need. There is chaos. The processes are not working. And then I come in and I come alive. My magic comes alive. But if Google reached out to me and said, Tabitha, we've got this amazing job, and it's in a department where everything has already been pre-designed, designed, and things are working well, and all I have to do is come in and do my job well, right? If I made the mistake of accepting that job, I would dislike my job. On the flip side, if you're a person that likes order and structure and process, if you took the job in the chaotic environment, I mean, you would dislike it. So how many of you have ever taken jobs that are not well aligned, right, in terms of the organizational culture or the leader's culture, just so that you can take a job? So that's one of the things that we make mistakes on. And then guess what happens? When you are in a work culture that is not aligned with who you are because you don't know who you are, then you can't thrive. You keep hitting roadblocks. You keep getting into conflict. You keep being unhappy. If this resonates, type resonates. I want to see if this is resonating. Are you guys enjoying this? Have you ever made this misstep? Let me see if there's a few of you. If not, maybe I'm just going to skip ahead if this is not resonating. Right? If this is not resonating, let me see. Is it resonating? Right? Let's see. All right. iPhone says, preach, company culture, good. Posta says, resonates. Sharon says, oh, wait, disruptive creative in Germany resonates 1,000%. Yes. iPhone says, loves boldness, then made a change. And Kate, Lynn, Jackie, Christine, and Kate are resonating. Good. So you see, even understanding the company culture means that you start from a place of self-awareness. If you do not know your career self, you will inevitably end up with the wrong job. Just as if you don't know yourself, you will inevitably end up with the wrong partner. All right. Okay, let's keep going. All right, the next one I wanted to talk about was, personal branding. I won't spend a lot of time there because I think I'm not getting a lot of comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump through this quickly because I'm the kind of person who reads an audience. And if I'm not getting a lot of comments, I recognize that this may not be the right thing. So I'll jump personal branding, but I'm going to go into visibility and networking. This one's big. And the reason this one is so big is because sometimes we underscore the importance of visibility and branding. And a lot of times I'll meet people who tell me they were getting good performance.
I think the people interested in personal branding. Sorry, it's we, the authentic dialogue people, who are to blame for because we answer the format we do is a bit different, so they're not used to your vibe. So this is a shock to the system, but just just take it positively. We are as in, this is the most we get from our comments during
Okay, good.
Yeah, so
well, I am going to challenge the authentic people. I know it feels uncomfortable, right? But go ahead and engage. Why? Just because it gives good conversation, good connection, right? So I know that it feels uncomfortable, but maybe once in a while I'll throw a little comment, then I'll get to read what you guys know. So thank you for that, Posa. All right, so then we'll go back, and which one did I skip? All right, we'll go back and talk about personal branding. And I want to talk about a workplace brand and what a workplace brand is. Are you all familiar with your workplace brand? So what's interesting is that I meet too many people who have never clearly defined their workplace brand. And instead, right, they focus on their reputation. They assume that their reputation is their brand. But here's the thing. You can have a great reputation in the workplace, but if you do not have a great brand, you will continuously be overlooked for those ideal positions and opportunities. Let me give you an example. An example of a reputation is she's reliable, that every time we go to Posa and Posa, we ask her to do something, she will deliver on time. So that's reliable. Another example could be responsive. Oh my gosh, Posa is so responsive. Every time we send emails, Posa will respond on time. So a reputation is a factor of how people experience you in your job today, so it's out of your control. So your reputation could be positive or negative. I've had negative reputation, right, at work in terms of not very responsive. That's very true. Why? Because by nature, because I'm more of a creative, I can be a little disorganized. By the way, I don't run away from that. It's a fact. I can be disorganized, so I can miss emails. So then how can somebody that misses emails and is not as responsive get promoted faster than people who are reliable and responsive to emails? The difference is a workplace brand. And I want you, my darlings, to write this down, because remember, you don't control a reputation. A reputation is a factor at work of how people experience you, but a brand, right? A brand is about your potential, right? A brand speaks to what people believe you can achieve in the future. So let's say, for example, you're an individual contributor and you want to be a leader. You want to be promoted to supervise people. And you've got a great reputation of you're organized, right? You're detail-oriented, right? You deliver high-quality work. And that's a beautiful reputation. But then, and you're knowledgeable. But then, right, when it comes to being promoted, you're overlooked. And you're overlooked for the person who's got the reputation of they're an innovator. They are influential. They can get people to buy into uncommon ideas. They have followership. So you see, a brand, on the other hand, is something that you intentionally create you curate and you deploy over and over again until people start associating you with that brand. And a brand has nothing to do with your past, because when you're defining and designing your brand, you're designing it based on your ideal next job. So when I'm teaching people how to create and deploy that workplace brand, we start with, what's your reputation, right? But remember, people with great reputations don't always get promoted. And then we shift into, what's your ideal next role? And in order for people to have the perception that you're ready now for your ideal next role, we need to create a brand that confirms that and then deploy it in a way that resonates so that people are saying that about you. So when that opportunity comes, they're tapping you. So have you ever sat down and really intentionally created your workplace brand and then intentionally deployed it? Because I typically say you typically need to deploy a workplace brand for 6 months to a year for it to stick. And when you do that, ooh, even if you had reputational challenges, I'm not saying you shouldn't manage your reputation, you should. You will find yourself flying in the direction of your career. It's the reason why I told you that story where my reputation was damaged because HR investigated me and stripped me of my leadership. That is terrible reputation. Like, that's a terrible reputation. So then why was I still, did a senior business leader still make the decision to, despite being stripped of my leadership, to say, we're going to make her a vice president. We're going to give her a bigger budget and a bigger team, despite her 2 weeks ago being stripped of her leadership. Why? My brand. So I want you guys to type in there, have you intentionally curated and deployed a brand that is aligned with your vision for your career? Type yes or no. Jackie said, thank you for covering that because I always rely on my reputation. I am kind and helpful, good. And want people to succeed, good. So I'm always trying to help. Yes. And a good reputation is important. Don't get me wrong, right? You don't want to have a bad reputation, right? But you've got to have a great brand. A reputation on its own won't help you reach those goals. So that's the mistake we make, which is not intentionally creating and building a brand. Let's go to the next one. Visibility and networking. Let me walk through these quickly because I think how much more time do I have?
It's up. It's the hard stop is up to you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We'll hit the others quickly. Because I see we're an hour 17 in. Good. All right. The next one is visibility and networking. This one is good. And I'm just going to give a simple example. I meet so many people who say, I really do good work. And I'm like, how do you know? They say, oh, I get good performance reviews every year. Great job. So your boss knows you do good work. And then the boss leaves and then they're left floundered because the one person that knew their good work is gone. Visibility means that people, right, of influence and power greater than your own boss need to understand your impact, not your name, not the fact that you're a project manager or your job title, or not the fact that you participated in this big, very important project. But do they know the impact, the unique contribution that you brought to that project? Do they know you beyond your name and your title and not just your boss? What about your boss's boss? Have you ever sat down with your boss's boss or their boss to really communicate the unique contribution you brought into the organization? Do they know the value that you bring? Not your name, not your job title, not that you participated in a particular project. Those are the three things people often think that is visibility. Oh my gosh, my boss's boss knows that I was part of this project and they know I'm a project manager. That's great. But do they know your unique impact? Right? And visibility is also connected to networking. When I teach people about business networking, that's the most important thing. I always actually tell people, how do you know you've got a good network? One of the best ways you know you've got a good network is when you're looking for a job. When you're looking for a job, do you have a handful of people you can call and say, I'm looking for a job? And those people often will connect you to opportunities. So you find opportunities and jobs like this. I do you. Or is your network just your peers, the people you've worked with, who don't necessarily, who may not be necessarily influential in different organizations, in your industry, in positions of power? How robust is your network? When I teach people networking, I'll give you guys a story. When I teach people networking, I teach them about, there's only 8 kind of networks you need to have. That's it. You'll actually only need to have 16 power players in your network. That's it. I'm not talking about 100 people. That's a mistake. A big network is not always a powerful network. I'll give you an example. For me, and I say this is gratitude, and I say this in deep gratitude, for my business, when I'm looking for corporate contracts, all I have to do is pick up the phone and reach out to my 16. And my 16 connect me to somebody who connects me to somebody who connects me to somebody. So next thing I know, I'm pitching. And it's a warm pitch. It's not a cold pitch of me trying to do cold hard sales. It's a warm pitch because I've been introduced by someone of influence to them. And next thing I know, I was telling one of my friends one day that I've been fortunate, right, not to have to do hard sales for my business contracts. Why does that happen? It's your network. So how powerful is your network? So my question for you is, when you're out there looking for a job, right? Let's say tomorrow you didn't have a job. Who would you call, and are they powerful enough to connect you to opportunities? Or is your network just people you chill with, you talk with, you laugh with, but you haven't built that relationship? And remember, networking is not about taking. Networking is mutual, it's dual. So how intentional have you been at building a powerful network? And I want to leave you with the reminder that a big network is not always a powerful network. I've met people with big networks, but when they're looking for a job, those networks, they still have to go through job hunting the long, hard way because they've not built the right network. So that's the next thing, what I call a misstep, right, that we make that make it more difficult to lose your job. Saya started us with a conversation about how when you make a misstep, it can actually go downhill all the way. But having the right network can help you kind of like manage it before it goes south too much further. Okay, so then the next one we wanted to talk to is self-promotion. I won't spend a lot of time on self-promotion because I covered this in my live 2 days ago. And self-promotion is the ability to talk about your achievements to the right people in the right way. It is one of the most underutilized things. If you're not self-promoting the right way at work, then you are struggling. You will struggle to grow your career. So if you don't know how to self-promote, please go to my live. I talked about some tips there. The next one that's huge is executive sponsorship. The story that I told you about going from being stripped of being leadership to being put into a vice president role, that required executive sponsors. Do you have an executive sponsor? An executive sponsor is a person of authority and power, right, who sits at the decision-making table, often has P&L, profit and loss responsibility, right? They're a decision maker, right? And they can mention your name in a room full of opportunities. When you have executive sponsors, what happens is your promotions, you don't have to apply, you're tapped. And of course you have to apply like everybody else, but the job is yours. And executive sponsorship is not unethical. Executive sponsorship is very ethical. It's ensuring that you've communicated your value to key decision makers. Have you done that? Because when you've communicated your value to them, those are the people that know about opportunities that are coming in the future. Those are the people that are opening up opportunities within their organization. And they're highly aware of your skills and they're connecting you. Many people confuse executive sponsors with mentors. A mentor, for example, when it comes to looking for a job, you would have to call them, for example, and say, there's this job, and they'll say yes, they'll give you advice. And then they might say, okay, let me introduce you to the hiring manager. Nice, that's a mentor. A sponsor, on the other hand, would go beyond just introducing you. A sponsor would pick up that phone, and remember, this is an influential person, and they would say, oh my gosh, you have to hire Rose. Let me tell you why you need to hire her. She's amazing. Let me tell you why she's amazing. And because executive sponsors are people of power and influence and decision makers, their words carry weight. So that's one of the best ways that I help people determine a sponsor or a mentor. You can have a person very senior who likes you, talks to you, gives you advice, but they're not a sponsor, right? And a lot of times people make the mistake of going to executive sponsors with their personal drama. Executive sponsors are not there to deal with your drama, with your challenges at work, etc. But what you need to do is to have a very senior level executive sponsor who helps you on that journey. And in class, I teach people how to do that. We actually spent 2 lessons on getting in with executive sponsors, and some of that has to do with self-promotion. Number 8, we're almost done, is productivity through time management. Oh my gosh. How many of you have ever thought, I need to do more in less time at work so that I have free time, and the best way to do that is through time management and organization? And I always say, if that was the answer, if time management and organization was the answer to productivity, then why is it that so many people are overwhelmed? You know what the answer is? Don't get me wrong, you still have to be relatively good at managing your time. But more important than that, one of the best ways to drive your productivity, to do the work you do today in less time, freeing you up. So the work that you're doing in 12 hours, can do, for example, in 8 hours, is through energy management. It's not taught enough. I teach this in my class. You see, as human beings, we have 4 sources. We generate energy from 4 sources. And time is finite. You only have 8 hours a day, right? So you can't, 24 hours a day, you can't expand time. But what you can do is you can expand energy. You can have greater energy, resulting in you doing more in less time. So what I then teach people is, have you learned how to expand your energy? I'll give you an example. Very many people are very good at creating and generating physical energy. You generate and create physical energy through working out, eating healthy, right? Drinking your water, getting 8 hours of sleep a day. Those are the ways that you generate physical energy, allowing you to be productive at work. But then we don't always generate. There's somebody on screen. I don't know if you want to say something, but I'll let you, Samsung, I'll let you say something in a second. But then you've generated your physical energy, but despite having great physical energy, you go to work and you find that, for example, you're struggling to concentrate. You're struggling to do analytical tasks. Why is that? That's because you haven't yet learned how to generate mental energy, right? So that's the second kind of energy that helps you, right, do more in less time. So if you can't get yourself to do analytical tasks and concentrate properly, what you would do in 8 hours, you end up doing in 10. The third kind of energy that you need to learn how to generate is what's called spiritual energy. And then the last kind of energy that you need to learn how to generate is emotional energy. Not enough people teach people how to do more in less time by leveraging their 4 kinds of energy and ensuring that at any given moment, you are generating physical energy, like literally creating it. Mental energy, emotional energy, and spiritual energy. And when you learn how to master those 4 and actually generate that energy, you'll find yourself doing 12 hours of work in 8 hours. And you'll be like, how am I so effective? I just taught my class this last month. And I had some people already writing, I can't believe it. Like, I'm doing so much. Even my bosses are shocked. They're like, what's going on? How are you doing so much? The answer is you have to go beyond time management. Time is finite. And you have to step into energy management as a source of productivity. And it's not taught enough. Saya, any thoughts, comments? How are you all feeling so far? Type in the chat. Are you enjoying this? Are you getting something out of it? I'll finish the last 2 quickly, and then we'll keep moving. How are you all feeling?
Are you able to touch on how to get an executive sponsor?
Yeah, so that's very complex, right? Or it can, let me not say that. It can be complex, but the secret ingredient to getting to an executive sponsor has to do with everything I'm talking about, self-promotion, etc., right? But I'm going to give you guys a 3-part ingredient at the end for success, and that's what you're going to lean on, right? So in terms of the mechanics, right, there are certain mechanics in terms of how you position yourself, how you approach them. Let's say there's an industry leader in your industry and you need to get to them. How do you show up? Let's say there's a CEO in your company and you need to connect with that managing director or CEO. How do you do that? The mechanics of that, we can't cover today, but I'll give you the holistic things that if you have, you naturally become attractive to an executive sponsor. All right. So let's see, we've got Wendy said she's learning so much. Hello, Rubai, yes. Jenny's enjoying it. One boy says amazing. Sharon getting a lot, great. Irene leaning in. Mgeni says he or she, I'm not sure if Mgeni is he or she is eye-opening. Glad you joined. Looking forward to be your student soon. Hi, Jane. I don't know if you intend for us to see you or if you want to say something. Okay, maybe not. She may have clicked her name by mistake. I don't know how to remove her from video. There she is. I'm going to remove her from video. All right, good. Should we keep going? Should we keep going? We're 92 of us. Oh my gosh, can I just get a 45 that we keep going? Or if not, should we just speed it up and close? Give me some feedback, please. Keep going or just speed it up and close? Thank you. Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for those of you that have written and have engaged. Good. All right, let's keep going. All right, 3 more. Oh, this one is big. Resisting change. Oh my goodness. Do you know from my experience that most people are change resistance? Many people focus on how we've always done things and this is how we should always do things instead of, please write this down, adopting a beginner's mindset. What is a beginner's mindset? A beginner's mindset says that in any time, in any opportunity you're saying, what's happening in the workplace right now, right? I know we've always done things this way, but what could we be doing differently? Instead, for many of us, especially if we've been part of building certain processes, we resist any change. And we say, don't break what's not broken. You want to know one of the most important skills, regardless of field in the workplace? It's innovation. And yet, many people, when I ask them, what are your strengths? They say they're problem solvers. But yet, many people actually resist change when they feel attached to certain processes or how they've always done things. And if you want to get a sponsor, if you want to grow your career, you have to be the kind of person that's continuously innovating and improving and adopting a beginner's mindset. So that's one of the common things. And by the way, people that resist are often not promoted. All right, so we'll just go to the last 2, which is conflict management and soft skills, and then I'm going to give you the high-level solution. So when it comes to conflict management, the other day I got, and this has happened a lot, I got a message from somebody working for a non-governmental, an international NGO in Kenya. And their contract was about to expire. And she was very worried that her contract would not get renewed, right? Because of the relationship, the conflict that she had with her boss. And because when we spoke, right, she clearly had conflict with her boss. And it wasn't going well because they had very different conflict styles. And a lot of times, you see what happens is there's primarily 4 root causes of conflict in the workplace. A lot of people think that the reason they enter into conflict is personality, but it's not. Usually the root cause of conflict, there's 4, but one of the most common ones, it's not personality that people think. One of the most common ones is process, a disagreement in how we're going to get to the outcome. Sometimes it's also based on not aligning on what the outcome is, right? But a lot of times it's a disagreement in the how. And if you can't solve that, then you end up in this crazy conflict that you can never seem to get resolved. And then finally, because emotions get involved, then you're like, you believe it's a personality conflict. And she believed it was a personality conflict. So she had not been able to resolve this. And when she came to me, she kept talking about how this boss is horrible, right? But a lot of times when we're in conflict, we can see how the other person is horrible, but not ourselves. So I said to her, okay, Sawa, this is a major conflict issue. And if you don't address it right, let's go ahead and if you don't address it right, you're right, your contract's not going to be renewed, right? And this is something that you need to invest in. So we talked about the pricing. She said, I'll get back to you. And she never did. Then and at this point, it was when she was worried about that, it was probably 3-4 months before the contract was over. Never heard from her. Then she came back to me a week or so, right, into her others getting their contracts renewed and her hearing nothing. So she's like, oh my gosh, my contract wasn't renewed. And can we do something? And at that point I said, you've just made your life so much more difficult. We're in a stage where a decision has been made. You don't have a contract, right? And conflict often takes time. I actually teach people a 3-step process. Let me teach you guys this to know if you're still in conflict. You guys want to know a 3-step assessment to know if you're in conflict with somebody? Because sometimes we can think we're good, but the other person is still in conflict with us. So maybe you went there, you shared your thoughts, you thought the conflict was resolved, but you're still getting passive aggression, you're still getting resistance, you're still getting avoidance from the other person, and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought this conflict was resolved. And then you get the outcome on the other end where your conflict was never resolved. There's a 3-part process I use to assess if you're still in conflict or not. I'll give it 10 seconds. If we get 50 people saying yes, walk through the process, I will. If not, I'll just jump in. This is where you have to ask for what you want. If you don't ask, you don't get it. So if we get 50 people saying yes, I'll walk through that quick process. If I don't get in the next few seconds, we'll just move on, because I want to make sure I'm giving you what you want. So as we do that, so the story from her, so that means that I need to say 50 plus 19. I need to see 69 comments. If I see 69 comments, we'll do it. So she came in, it was a week into not getting her contract, and she's like, oh my gosh, can you help me? And at that point I was like, it's a tad bit too late, right? Because one of the mistakes we make, which is tied to this, is, please write this down, we fail to invest in our career. I don't know why we do that. We fail to invest in the soft skills, the things that will make our career grow. We're willing to invest in the hard skills, in the training to do your job better. But we forget that the things that will help us to earn more money and be more fulfilled are things to do with negotiation, conflict management, right? Gaining buy-in and influence, right? Persuasion, right? Managing your power, building a powerful relationship, getting executive sponsors, right? Growing your network, self-promotion at work. These are the skills that you need. But people will not invest in that, but they'll invest in their hard skills. And guess what? She ended up losing her contract. And I don't know if she ended up finding a contract, but if she had just said, you know what, I'm going to invest in managing this conflict early, we wouldn't have had a problem. So that's one of the biggest mistakes we make as Kenyans, especially, which is Americans are very different. Often Americans will invest in these soft skills, in coaches, because they realize that is the core. In fact, research, please note this, you can look it up. Research from Sean Archer at Harvard found that only 25% of career success is anchored in your work. Only 25% is anchored in your hard skills. Go look up the research by Sean Archer, Harvard. The other 75% is anchored by these soft skills I'm talking about. Negotiation, influence, conflict management, right? Relationship building, it's anchored on that. But yet we're willing to invest in getting the certification and the degree. And then you think that the other skills that are the most important are the ones you don't want to invest in. And that's a big challenge. So good, we need 4 more. Let me get 4 more people right. If not, we'll join. We didn't have 4 more people. So I'll skip that because I have to honor the boundary I had sent. So I'll skip that.
No, we have a bunch from the Facebook Live.
From the Facebook page. Okay, good. Then we'll do it. Good. Okay. So I'm going to teach you a 3-part process to know if you're still in conflict with somebody. And I call it the PRO. It's not something you can Google. It's things that I've created. A lot of these things are created over time and they work. It's like magic. The first PRO is process. So you're asking yourself this question: did we go through the process, right, of navigating the conflict? The process. What does that mean? If you didn't go through the process of navigating the conflict, it means that perhaps somebody avoided you, so you never had the conversation. Or when you were having the conversation, the person withdrew and didn't really share their perspective. They were not fully engaged in the dialogue of it. So it was really mostly a one-way conversation. Or maybe you dominated them and they felt like they were not heard. So you may have thought you were going through a process, but according to them, they were not heard. So the process of working through conflict did not really happen. And it requires emotional intelligence to understand if the process really happened, not from your perspective, even from your perspective, but also from the perspective of the other person. Did we go through the process of resolving the conflict? If you did not go through the process of resolving the conflict, you may think that things are going well, but the other person may still be in conflict with you. That's the P at a high level. The second one is the R, right? What is the status of your relationship after the process, right? When you went through the process, was your relationship left in tatters or disconnected? Or did this process of conflict at work result in a deeper connection? If your relationship as a result of going through the process of the conflict is now strained, then the other person, you may think you're okay, the other person may still be in conflict with you. So I'll give you an example. You go through the process and yes, you address the issues. Maybe there was a problem, you addressed it, but now the person avoids you. Now they're not as warm with you as they used to be before. Now they're more quiet around you. Or now perhaps they're rude to you. Perhaps maybe their tone is not as welcoming and warm. It means that your relationship was affected. So even if you think things are going well, that other person may still be in conflict with you. Because I don't want you to have any blinders anymore, especially for my conflict seekers who love the process of conflict, where you can think you're okay, but the conflict avoider is not okay. And then the last one is the O. The O is the outcome. Did you get to the outcome that you agreed on? So you may have gone through the process, right, of the conflict. Then you may have, your relationship may still be intact and positive, but the outcome that you agreed on through the process has not been reached or it's not moving forward. So we may have left our relationship. I'll give a silly example. I'm going to give a silly example, not a workplace one. An example could be, we went through this process. It was Valentine's Day and my husband did not get me flowers. So we went through the process. We talked through it. We agreed that he's going to get me flowers every Valentine's Day moving forward. And you know what? Our relationship seems fine. Since then, things are still good to shall move on. Then next Valentine's come and the outcome that you had agreed on, I couldn't have flowers, right? But your spouse had said, I'll get you flowers. This is just a silly example. I want you to apply that in the workplace. So person had said, in order for us to move forward, I'll do this, this, and this. But the things that they said that they would do, the markers of progress, they haven't done. They haven't made a reasonable effort to get it done. And when you ask, perhaps there's always good reason or good excuses. So the outcome is not there. So when you use this very simple PRO process, it's a good thing that a good way I teach my students to see, are you still in conflict? Because if you are going around with blinders, thinking you're not still in conflict, but you are, then you are creating unseen roadblocks to your own success, especially when the person is either senior to you or they are influential about your career success, PRO. If you enjoyed PRO, type PRO, and then now we're going to close. Thank you, Stella, for saying that's very profound. Anybody else? I'm going to now take us to the final ingredients for success, and we'll close there.
Are you able to project the list? Someone asked for the list some time ago.
Which list?
The list you were going through, the mistakes list.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. And then we close with soft skills, not investing in your soft skills, right? Where people tend to invest in hard skills, but they don't invest in, and by the way, the investment I'm talking about is not necessarily going to, it's one thing to go to Coursera and take a course on conflict management. That's really nice. And now you've gathered the knowledge, but do you know how to handle conflict, right? This is why I always say, so some of my, I have a lot of the people that come into my program are very successful and achieved women. I actually just kicked off a Kenyan men program and I was shocked, right? The class It was a pilot. The pilot sold out for the career acceleration of Kenyan men. Because I was like, people had said Kenyan men don't sign up for coaching. I was shocked. The class sold out. And so a lot of times the women are very achieved. So I meet a lot of women and men, they've been to Strathmore, they've taken strategic leadership, they've taken all these courses that you're supposed to take. So something you may not know about me is I was senior director of learning, and I was a senior director of learning and development for this global organization. And my team and I were supporting about 550,000 people from executive level in terms of developing them, executive level development, all the way to brand new employees, like straight out of college. So one of the things that I discovered in that is that many training programs fail. The reason they fail is that you go to class, you learn, then you come out with great theory, and then you go back and you apply, you go back to your old way of doing things. So you never fully transform. Now, don't get me wrong, they're good. Don't get me wrong, they're good. So I'm not downplaying any program. Those programs are fantastic. I'm talking about corporate training programs. So then you've taken this amazing training program, you've learned how to be a leader, then you go back and nothing's changed, you're applying the same thing. And that's the reason why for me, my program is a 12-month program. Because what you need to do is, my belief is you need to learn the theory, and then before you learn anything else, the rest of that month, you go and apply the theory. You go put it into work, you go apply it, because the only way you'll change, learn, and transform is to apply. So I can come here and teach you conflict management and give you the theory, but if I never go ask you to look at a PRO situation, a place you're still in conflict that you thought conflict was resolved, and then I don't give you a formula and tell you, okay, go apply this on your PRO, and then you see it work. So you may walk out with a lot of theory and conflict, but you may not walk out with practical tools that you can apply in the future because you never applied it, right? Because remember, when you're thinking about learning, you have to think, feel, do. You have to do. The do part is critical. You have to feel a certain way, you have to think a certain way, and you have to do it, right? So that's what I wanted to say. So now I want to close, my darlings, and I want to close here with the solution, right? What is the key ingredient to career success? And at the end of the day, if you want to avoid the missteps, there's 3 things that I'm going to say. The 3 key ingredients, right? I know we've gone long, but we had to cover a lot of theory. Was the first thing is what's called aligned performance. Please write this down. We're at the end, so please note this down. What is aligned performance? So instead of focusing on hard work, what this requires of you is to produce work that has a meaningful impact on your team or the business, right? So how do you get to aligned performance? In fact, in my class, we are working on this right now. One of the best ways to get to aligned performance is to sit back and say, what is my senior leader, not just my boss, my boss's boss at least, my boss and my boss's boss, what are they measured on? And you literally sit down and say, this is what they're measured on. And then you say, what from their perspective? Now you go into pains. That's perhaps their goals, their pains. And there's multiple questions, so I'm just giving you one of each. From their pains, you say, when they look at the team's performance or this department's performance, what do they believe are the biggest gaps? What are the gaps in terms of the team, right? Or our processes? What do they think are the biggest roadblocks? Roadblocks is a better word. What are the biggest roadblocks that they believe are in the way of us achieving their goals? And then you ask yourself the third question, which is their desired gains or wins. In an ideal state, you ask yourself, if this were an ideal state for them, what would be happening? That's not happening today. And then you take a step back and you say, now that I understand my leaders and my senior leaders' goals, pains, and gains, how then can I ensure that my work is somehow creating an impact on the things that matter most to them, their gains, their pains, their gains, their pains, their gains, and their goals. And then how can I report back to them about how my work has directly impacted their goals, pains, and gains? So instead of being the kind of person who's just going to work and saying, my job is to answer customer calls, I'm in customer service, and I'm like, oh, I went to work and I did customer service, good. You would extend it and say, what can I do? How can I create an impact that touches on those goals, pains, and gains? And then when you tie your work or 1 or 2 or 3 big achievements in the year to those, and you communicate it back through self-promotion, oh, you're going to have what I call a magnetic career, where your career is smooth and you're speeding your way towards your goals. The second thing is what's called political will. What is political will? Please write this down. The political will is when you create the willingness of others in the organization to advocate on your behalf for your career success. Let me say that again. They have the will to advocate on your behalf for your success, and sometimes greater than you advocate for yourself. This is where executive sponsors come in. This is where I say that career success and career growth is hinged, very well hinged, on whether you've been able to create political will, an army that is so clear about where you want to go, and they work on your behalf to get you to where you want to go. Do you have that, or do you have to apply and fight for every promotion? Number 3, political skill. Political skill is very different from workplace politics. Workplace politics is negative, but every office has workplace politics. Political skill, on the other hand, is what's called organizational politics. These are the skills that I talked to you about before. These are skills like self-promotion, handling conflict, influence, buy-in, right? Emotional intelligence, negotiation, right? Persuasion in the workplace. These are the soft skills that allow you to work well and through others. Political skill is your ability to work with and through others to not only help achieve the organizational goals, but also to achieve your personal goals. And with that, my darlings, if this has been joyful, feel free to join my email list. Feel free to follow me on Facebook. I do a lot of lives. I did a live 2 days ago on self-promotion in the workplace and how to self-promote. So you can see that on my Facebook page. I'm Tabitha and Jerry. On my email list, I email 0 to 2 times per week. Unless I'm in sales cycle, then I really email valuable content or reminders to join my free lives like this one, or on my page. And so I would invite you to join, and you can exit at any time. So with that, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to call in Posa and Saya for to see if there's any additional questions, thoughts. But I'd love to hear from everybody in the chat. Let us know, what did you think? Was this valuable? I'd love to hear that from you. Hi, Posa.
Hello. Yes, and also, yeah, a bunch of friends of mine. The way I'm usually the Kimbelembele of asking questions today, I am just sitting here and marveling at the education. Yeah, this is fantastic. I'm just wondering, because I'm from the healthcare side, and I feel like it's kind of different from the corporate world. I don't know. Wait, let me think through this, then we'll do a behind the scenes talk.
Yeah, I'm actually going to answer that.
Okay.
And I see some of them here. About 40% of my clients are doctors.
Oh.
Both in Kenya and in the diaspora. It's no different. In fact, some of the most toxic work environments from my experience, or difficult to navigate, are in healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Because in healthcare, sometimes there's egos, very high egos, right? Sometimes there is a lot of competitiveness, especially with even in the US, revenue generation, etc. Right? I see somebody said, Dr. Musheru said, yes, there's a Dr. Mom here. About
Mhm.
40% of my clients are doctors. And in fact, doctors, lawyers, this actually applies even more so. And even with doctors, we go into burnout, right? Like I help them manage through burnout. So I hope that helps. So this, what we're talking about, applies regardless of field, whether you're a doctor, whether you're lawyer, whether you're in corporate, whether you're in government, whether you're in an NGO, that kind of thing.
So I know you were hopping off. Kujo useme asante zote before, because you're the one who was gifted with the English of the nose. Where art thou?
Are you busy suggesting that I went with a certificates approach and just got certificates for English? Tavi, thanks. Fun fact is, so I'd asked Posta, like, hey, how long will today's session be now that it's not a Q&A? She said, tops 2 hours. Yeah, and then I think somewhere in the process we're like, our 2-hour story was going to be a lie. Something to happen. And yeah, we've got so much value. Thank you so much, Tabi, for everything. Like every of the points you've said is a training, on itself. So I'm sure behind the tent, and we will point people in your direction still. So thank you so much for pouring freely and abundantly and with so much gusto and energy. And thank you for not being a motivational speaker, for not just speaking loudly with a lot of fury, statements that really mean nothing, but like those with behind the energy, there was both coherence and depth. So thank you so much. It means a lot to all those who've learned. Certainly you have scratched many surfaces, and I'm sure there is depth that people need to get. Now, this is where I turn to the rest of the people. That is where the free limit ends. This is where we could get Tabi to push it for free. Imagine for her to be what she is, she's really, I'm sure, invested to get there. And if you really want to get your career to the next level, I'm sure you also want to invest in yourself to get those political skills, or to be able to navigate the tensions that are still outstanding, or to be able to learn how to practically, step by step, get that promoter. I'm sure Tabi has programs that deal with that, and they cost. So we'll, as always, be getting how you can be able to tap into Tabi's things. That's a very tricky thing for an African mouth to say. Tap into the courses that Tabi has to say. Tap and tab. Will be happy to let you guys know. So thank you so much, Tabi. Thank you, Paul, for the work you've put.
Just before you close, Tabitha, are you willing to take any questions? As in, we can do like the first 3 hands up. On Euro 1, we had to. On Euro 1, on Euro 2, if you raise your hand, you can unmute and ask a burning question. And Tabitha, for the last time, for these Kenyans who 844 has just ended, please project the list again, because someone asked. But if you raise your hand, the first 3 people, if not, tutafunga mkutano.
This is, let me get the list. That's it.
Okay, please take your screenshot, your things, everything. Going once, going twice, gone.
And then Tabi, if is there a single page you have that shows how people can be in touch with you, so that as I close, it's what's on the screen for people to do the screenshots et al.
Right. I actually did not bring that, but the best way is just to find me on Facebook, or join my email list, which is tabithanjeri.com, or find me on Facebook as Tabitha Njeri. And you'll see me as Tabitha Njeri, who has what is that called? The check mark, the blue
Verified account.
Yeah, the verified account. Yeah, that's how because there was a lot of Tabitha Njeris, so that's how you'll know that's me.
Yeah, I was actually about to say, like, Tabitha and Jerry, that's a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. Yes.
Please do the list. Please do the list once again. That was too quick, Posa.
Okay, once again, watoto wa 844 na system mzee. This is the last time it's going up. And you can always rewatch this video and find it. So the video is going to be up on our Facebook page. I think Tabitha is going to share it on her page, and we will also upload it on YouTube. So you have no excuse not to rewatch it. This is fantastic. There are no, see, Tabitha, you
There are
need to
no
become
there are no questions.
I know, nasikia, nimekaa chini, na vile nimeambia watu wasiniangushe.
Hawajakuangusha, they did good. They did good.
Yeah, they
chatted,
did very well,
they
because we
connected.
usually have a different format, which we are reverting to back next week. Next week, our discussion is on endometriosis. So for all the endo warriors, all those people with periods that are unending and are painful, please let them join. Yeah, next week. Sir, is there anything else I need to say?
You can watch these and previous sessions either on our Facebook page, which is Authentic Dialogues with Sarah Jackson, or YouTube specifically for these sessions is called Authentic Dialogues. There's a separate YouTube called just Sarah Jackson. So on either you can keep tabs. You can follow us on Instagram, which is one Sarah Jackson. So any of those places would be great. Again, we are open to questions, suggestions, topics, speakers you want to hear. So through any of those places, please slide in, and you can self-promote on those spaces as well. And then finally is next week is our final session for the year. We don't touch people's December because of travel and holidays and everything. So our session next week is going to be our final one for the year. And as Posa has mentioned, we're talking about endometriosis. Yeah, we trust us to just think about pain before people go to the holidays. But yeah, please, if you're having irregular periods or periods with pain, or somebody who's going through that, let them come in and we'll talk through the myths, the truths, and to equip you to keep healing and to keep living victoriously. And then, yeah, finally is thanks for the ride together this far. I think I have pointed out the important things. Today, I don't think we're having a behind the tent.
Well, we won't have a behind the tent, but Tabitha, unakaa ulikuwa na jambo la kusema.
I was just going to say thank you, Posa and Saya, for the opportunity to come here and, talk about this and share this with, have this conversation with so many people. And thank you to everybody in the audience. But thank you for what you do and this platform that you create. I know two of my other friends, Joanne and Jacinta, have come to your platform as well. I think that's how I learned about you, and they've really added value. So thank you for what you do for the community. So thank you. Thank you for the space.
And thank you, Joanne, for linking me up with Tabitha. And thank you to our audience. Asanteni sana. Tukutane makutano. That program was good. Tukutane makutano next week for the last session, and after that until February. Mpige sherehe, mkue broke in January, then we come back. And do you have a rate card, like something, Tabitha, do you have a rate card, like mtu ajue tu bonyeza hapa hii ni pesa hivi, or they just have to go through the emails to learn about your program?
Yeah, so I have different programs, and today they're not consolidated as one, which is one of my initiatives for next year, right? So I advertise them on my pages. But in terms of the programs, I've got the Career Acceleration Program. Right now, it's a 12-month program. It's probably one of the most powerful programs. I'm launching it again starting January. The early bird discount, early bird will be $79 a month. right? And about half the people from there are Kenyans in Kenya. It's for professionals who are really continuing to wanting to excel in their roles, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, in business, in finance, whatever it is. That's $79 a month. I do a program on resume and LinkedIn to really create, and this one again also requires people who are at a certain level, build that powerful resume that opens doors to your ideal job, to your desired job. That one is a 3-week class at $319. So again, there's different programs. There's one-on-one sessions. My rate for one-on-ones in Kenya is $199 an hour. My rate for one-on-one sessions in the diaspora is $250, right? So there's a lot of options, and it's my joy to work with. I literally work with hundreds of Kenyan women and Kenyan men, and it's my joy to do that with you every year. So I hope to see you in my programs.
Okay, that's it's cheaper than buying booze every weekend. And when do the programs are they also over the weekend?
Yes, a lot of my programs are over the weekend because that's when people have free time, right? But I have some diaspora only programs that are no, I have some programs that are also during the week, by the way. But the career acceleration program is weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Asanteni sana na kwaherini. Bye bye. Thank you, Tabitha.